guys are in screen, and I'm coming as well. Hello, everyone. Wow. I hope you guys can clearly hear us.
Hello.
You don't have to yell. It's fine.
No, hello.
We don't have?
So today, no, you don't have to yell. We have a mic that should capture everything. So today we're gonna talk about update 4.2 that literally just went live. Some of you already played it on the test server. And first we're gonna have our two guests. Introduce yourself. Who are you?
I am Chris. You may remember me from previous streams. I'm the level design director on Hunt. Some of you might know me as Barney in the channels. I think we've revealed that before, right? That secret.
Yeah, that secret is out.
Yeah, it's been out for a while now.
Hi, my name is Pablo, and I'm principal game programmer at Hunt. I don't have any, I'm in Discord, but I'm too shy to actually get flares, so no one knows about
that's
what
fine.
my name is.
I think that's for the best. Yeah.
Yes.
So we're gonna first have them talk a little bit about what they've done for the patch and what they're still doing, etc. And then we're gonna go over some survey results. So some of you, if they did, thank you, because that's very helpful for us. Filled in the survey that we ran during the test server. There will be another survey later. And then we're gonna go through some questions. So yeah.
So 4.2. So basically, we should be going live today if it's not already live. I think it might.
It
be
is already live.
It's already live. So you guys
10
can
minutes before 5.
Yeah, okay, that's good. So what you guys are going to be getting in the patch, I don't know how many of you have been using the test server. I guess we got quite a lot of responses this time on the surveys, which means a lot of people were on the test server, which is really encouraging because that helps us a shitload. So 4.2 is going to contain mostly two areas that we focused on. The first area is going to be smoothness of gameplay. So we spent a lot of time working on reducing stalls, reducing stutters, frame drops, making sure that your overall experience was nice and clean and nice and
a lot of people said they had a way smoother experience.
Yeah, I know we've mentioned that in the past. I think we've done a couple of performance updates and stuff where we've kind of said we're going to focus on stalls first and then bring the overall frame rate up. And I think that we needed another round on that. It was clear that we hadn't done enough. We had a lot of feedback from people that they wanted to see much more improvements to these frame drops, and we had so many sort of even one-on-one discussions with the community about the issues that they had.
Yeah, we even had a special channel in the Discord. But in general, also the fact that the stutters are very diverse. Like the first reasons, people have them for different reasons.
Yeah, diverse is putting it actually very mildly, I would say. We found, and by we, I actually mean Pablo found, so all credit to this guy for your smooth frame rates, by the way.
No, not only.
Yeah, so we analyzed a lot of the content of the patch, and we found quite a lot of stuff, and it's all being bundled into 5.2, which should be available for you today.
4.2.
4.2. Did I say 5.2?
Yes.
All right.
You're already in the future.
Sorry, let me just make sure I remember never to say 5.2 again. There's a lot of stuff that went into the patch that was related to stutters, stalls, frame drops, other things. People on lower end hardware should see some improvements to their performance just generally as well. You should see a bit of an improvement in memory usage. There's some more general CPU optimizations and things. A lot of people on the test servers actually mentioned that they were able to sort of bump their spec up a notch, improve the detail and stuff like that. So hopefully a good patch. We wait on feedback. The test server feedback was so far pretty good.
Yeah.
So hopefully things improve for you guys.
Good experience.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, what have you guys been doing so far in understandable terms as much as possible?
I'll let you cover all those.
Alright, yes. The hardest part. Although you pretty much said everything. Like, yeah, we work in performance, right? Easy.
Yeah.
Do it in a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, let me check like our schedule of things. This patch contains many different improvements. Like mostly during this patch we were concentrating on CPU performance, as CPU performance was like one of the main bottlenecks we were seeing on the low spec, on the recommended specs. High specs are not that affected because usually they can pump up, like people have much better CPUs, more cores, more memory. For them it's usually okay. So these people potentially will be not experiencing as much of improvements, but even for them,
they'll get smoother, I think.
The experience hopefully should get smoother, and like less stuttery, like more smoother frame rate.
I think we'll just go with the 2 words: performance and smoother, and then
Yes.
that's it for the update.
Okay, we're gonna go.
So
It's done.
We
I
can,
mean, I do think that's a good point to just mention because I know a lot of people sometimes get confused still. They're like, why are they working on the CPU when it's not using the full GPU? GPU, not GPU. And the reason that is because it's at the moment still heavier on the CPU because it's not using the full GPU.
Or rather, I mean, it's PC, so everyone has completely different spec. Like PCs, like we have telemetry and seeing just the whole matrix of all the possible configurations. It's mind-boggling. People play with super high-end computers, crippled by some very one bad part, or other people play on like laptops which are not even like gaming laptops and still expect very good experience. And then some people actually have just decent PCs, maybe like just from 4 years ago. So not greatest thing. Yeah.
But I think all of the ones that we see, and what we do is we notice that there's the vast majority of people have hardware that should very easily be able to cope with the kind of performance that they would expect. So, getting 60 frames per second at 1080p should not be a big deal.
In no way I'm saying that, it's user problem that they're not getting better PCs. Not at all.
Yeah.
Actually, but my point is that given such vast differences in the hardware people use, we try to at least find the biggest point of impact where the impact will be where more people will benefit from it.
Yeah.
So we see that the CPU cost of the game is one of the worst offenders for most of the people. Besides, we try to just increase the overall satisfaction of people, how they perceive and most people have average to low computers. So if we can give them better user experience, so they can actually play well, hit their shots without suffering from the stuttering, that's better.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to remember as well that if you are limited by your processor or you're limited by things like the clock speed and other stuff on there, is that it will limit everything. It means that your GPU can't work as hard and you can't get the full potential of the GPU. So we get asked a lot is, I have a 1080 Ti and maybe an i5 4790 Intel or something like that, and why am I not getting 60 frames or 70 frames or a smooth experience in general? And the reason is because the CPU is holding you back in that case.
It might be that, or it might be I have very good CPU and GPU, but then I got 8 gigabytes of memory, and right now the game is barely fitting in 8 gigabytes, so it means you're constantly gonna go in a swap file, so you're kind of limited by your hard drive then, which is kind of surprising for many people. It's really hard to tell what is the case. It's really case by case.
I mean, what we find is that we get asked quite a lot of times is why does performance take so long to address, and why has this been going for several months, 8-9 months now since Hunt has been released. And the truth of the matter is that you have to plan for different specs, different combinations of hardware, different driver types, different platforms, different Windows types, different settings, and all of those can combine into, you're talking hundreds of thousands of combinations of things that could happen, and we have to go in and we have to test all that stuff, and it takes a lot of time. Jumping back quickly to the original question about the performance side of things and what was done, we found a couple of very interesting things.
So maybe we can go more specific terms.
Let's talk about those.
So, one of the offenders which we found, and it was actually quite curious one, that we found that so there was one piece of work which was done for the rendering, and it's actually a very CPU heavy job, and we actually some time ago already identified that it's CPU heavy and we don't really need it to happen on the client. It's CryEngine is very...
We changed it from a thing that happened in runtime to something that was pre-calculated.
Yeah, exactly. CryEngine is generally very... everything has to be in runtime, especially for the editor experience, for our normal development cycle. For the end user, not everything has to be runtime. We can pre-calculate some things, put them on disk, and then stream them in. So we implemented this. It was great. We measured the performance improvements. It was quite a while ago. And then we kind of forgot about this issue. And during this cycle of profiling, I find out, hey, this thing is actually weird, it's running. Why we never saw this? So, I mean, the fix was just, make sure that it's actually properly streamed and not happening in runtime. The more important in this case is, So the reason was that we have multiple configurations of the game. There's one configuration which is a release, which is effectively what to ship to players. It doesn't have almost no like checks, no introspection is what is happening inside the game. And then there is a profile build, which has much more debug functionality, introspection of how performance works, like we can have markers to see what exactly is happening at which point in frame.
Hold on, let's sort of boil this down a bit. So basically,
I was about to say, like, it sounds...
You've gone full programmer. You never go full program. So basically, we have a couple of different modes that we run the game in. One is called profile. Profile mode is as we're working
on the game.
There's debug stuff in, and that slows the game down.
Yes.
Then we have something called release mode, and release mode is where you compile the game and you take all of the crap out that you don't need, that you don't need to debug and have all this extra information. But your game gets sort of, let's say, 15% faster.
Yes.
And that's what you guys get to play. So we have a debug version and you guys have a live version. And the bug we found with the stalls was only on the live version.
The lights going off.
So,
oh no, technical issues.
Dance in front of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this bug was affecting just the release version, just the release configuration, ironically.
Yeah.
Because this one actually should be faster. And the reason why we were not seeing this is specifically because it was released, because release doesn't have this additional markers, additional introspection into what's happening in the game. So we found it just because this time we started using some additional new tools, which are not inherent to CryEngine, but rather external tools developed by Microsoft, like Microsoft Pix, if anyone interested. And yeah, so these external profiling tools allowed us to spot something which we were previously was not able to find out.
Yeah. And what was also quite interesting is that these two issues may or may not, there was two different cases. Some would cause your frame rate to drop and you would stutter. So you'd be moving around, like a lot of you have probably come across the experience where you're moving around the level and you're trying to track someone down or go to the objective or whatever, and you feel this pause or like this stall for a few seconds or whatever as you're moving around, and it's super annoying. Or you're raising your gun up to shoot an AI or another player or whatever, and it just
like
freezes.
a little delay or something.
And it's so annoying, and that's one of the ones that we fixed. And that basically will cause your frame rate to peak downwards, so you'll get a drop. And there was another issue that we found, which meant that you would have those stutters and stalls, and you would feel this kind of movement that felt very, very strange and a bit disconnected somehow. But your frame rate didn't change. So people with high-end hardware, like people with like 8-core machines, like really good machines, would feel these weird like movements and these weird kind of glitches as they were moving around, but it had nothing to do with their performance. They would be getting nice frame rates, but the movement felt like shit.
Well, it is a performance issue. It's just it was not affecting the main thread performance. It was a physics thread. So
exactly.
It was an issue with the physics system.
And what does that mean?
So. We split our game simulation in multiple threads of execution because nowadays the computers all have at least 4 cores, so we can theoretically, in the perfect world, do work 4 times, or not faster, but at least 4 times of work in the single unit of time.
Yeah.
So
the good news is that we fixed it.
Well, not quite, but so our physics system is running in parallel with the normal game simulation, and there were issues when the physics system was overloaded, and it was not properly synchronized with the game. So then, for the game, it was looking like I requested a movement, like move me, like with this velocity. Next frame, it expects to have a result, because the physics thread was not catching up with the main thread. So we optimized the main thread and it became shorter than the physics. The physics was not ready to give results. In result, the entity was not moving. So your frame rate is great, your entity is not moving. And this kind of stutter is, the good telltale for this kind of stutter is you can rotate yourself, look around, and your frame doesn't drop. You don't have stutter.
Yeah.
The moment you start moving,
you
start stuttering. Or what else? The other entities like AI, they kind of jittery. And
I think that's actually something I don't think we put on the patch notes. It's very likely that has also been fixed with the fix for this thing. So if you guys had experience where you were playing the game and the AI was sort of being a bit twitchy and a bit weird, that wasn't a new direction in the animation that we were going for, but
they were just not feeling something.
Yeah, they were
Doctor,
really
it feels
unhappy.
so good.
Yes.
Just to add to the problems.
Yeah.
But yeah.
it was just one case of a stutter. Of course, there is another case of stutter when generally the game is overloaded and yeah, your frame is actually like the whole frame is missing the. But this is we still going on, like we're still investigating these kind of issues. But this one with the physics, hopefully we fixed it. We're still gonna work more on the physics system because we do see that it's doing more work than it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And there's multiple ways. Like there's some bugs, there's some like improvements, general algorithmical improvements. There's just like asset improvements. There's too many things on the level which are potentially too expensive or don't activate themselves.
Yeah. One of the strategies we normally do, like when you normally build a game, you build a lot of content, and at the end you optimize the hell out of it, and then it gets better. But with a game like Hunt, because we're doing early access and we're doing cycles, we add content and then we have to go back and optimize and add content and optimize. And one strategy that we do is that, I mean, this is again why you'll get some more optimizations in a later date, hopefully in 5.0 or whenever. We actually do just blanket optimizations where we don't necessarily target specific things. We just say, you're using too much. Let's try to back it off. Let's try to reduce stuff so that you reduce the pressure on the physics system or the animation system or the CPU or whatever we're doing. And you know, it doesn't hurt just to try to optimize things where you can.
Yeah. Then I'm actually curious because that is also something that some people ask, like, if we are working on performance, what is the rest of the team doing? Are they also, you know, can they make new bosses? But
no, they just sit and do nothing, right?
Yeah.
No, they're figuring out how to increase the poly count and the
so there are more things. I mean, you can probably explain it a little bit better than me. Like, for example, what are some of the teams doing also for performance?
So what we mentioned earlier, again, we will be putting out more optimizations as we go. So this is not the only one that we're going to be shipping. What we tended to do is, because people had performance issues over Christmas and the 3.0 to 4.0 issue that we had, we wanted to make sure that we fixed that as soon as we could, and the community was very vocal in asking for it, and they absolutely should be. That
We have to gesture and
okay,
dance.
I think it's something with the cable that's like, because I moved it a tiny bit.
Can you hear us now again?
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's maybe the cable. It's
Sound that?
wonky.
All right, say apples in chat if you can hear us again.
Apples.
You're
No,
not.
not yet.
Sound is back. All right.
No. The line. It didn't say apples. Okay.
Apples.
Okay.
There's
And
so
oranges.
many apples. I don't know where we stopped before.
Well, we were saying what the others are doing and like.
Okay. So So basically, what we wanted to do is there was a performance drop between 3.0 and 4.0, which was not good. That was on our side. We messed that up, and we needed to fix it quickly, which is why we wanted to make sure that you guys had a patch sooner rather than later. So this is why you're getting a patch 4.2, which hopefully fixes those issues and makes things smoother as well. And we will be continuing to develop more patches, so you'll actually get another one that will update content for 5.0. And the rest of the team have been working a lot on asset side optimizations and things like improving the level, reducing the amount of poly counts and entities, and making sure all the objects have the right LODs and stuff like that. So
yeah, another thing which
Oh no, it's all broken.
Okay, it's fixing it. I don't know what's wrong with that cable. We're
No
gonna
apples.
have to check that out.
Is it back again?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Now
So-
say another word.
Okay.
Bananas.
Bananas.
I can't actually spell bananas.
Is it bananas or bananas?
Bananas.
What is this? Oh no.
I have no idea. So I think
Okay.
everyone has bananas. So that's
Everyone
good.
got bananas.
You were saying.
I was saying
something.
I was saying that the memory consumption may improve the performance for some users, especially if they have limited amount of actual physical memory, like RAM memory.
Yeah.
Of course, for rich people who have 32 gigabytes of memory, maybe not that big a fish for them. But yeah, this is what the team is working on. There was a perfect question. Why the team just cannot add the optimized assets right away? Kappa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. The reason being is that it would take us a lot longer to give you a patch. If we put all the assets in, we have to do a lot of different testing. It takes a lot longer, and you would get a delay of several weeks before you got your patch. So that was.
And we already know that people are very sad that they don't have the boss yet,
Yeah.
but performance is coming first right now, so it's been already a little bit late. I'm actually curious. So, what do we do to prepare for like a patch with the test server and the live server?
Right now, we had the test server up. A lot of people played it. Something that's quite important to keep in mind, and it's actually something we kind of wanted to remind people about when it comes to the test server and performance, which is the test server performance is only as good as the number of players that are in the session.
Yeah.
If you play on the test server and it's a low population, this can affect performance because the more players that are involved with this,
Yeah.
it will activate more entities, more AI will be active, and your frame rate can change depending on how many players are in the session with you. So if you go onto the test server and you immediately find your frame rate sort of doubled, I would say try it a few more times, see if you can get into sessions. If you have more players, it would always be good. And we need to make sure that you're actually testing with 8 to 10 other players. That's really important. Typically, we see, at least internally, maybe upwards of 8 to 10 frames difference between a populated server and a non-populated server on a medium spec PC. So
Yeah, I mean, to the point we do performance captures, and we don't even do them with one player. Our QA team, when they're doing performance captures, they all play 10 people. Not all of them capturing the data for our analysis, but it's just usually a few PCs, like the target hardware. But everyone else just creating traffic, creating action in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, if some of you guys might have seen a post that we had up on our social media where you saw that we were testing, we have then the test rooms with all kinds of different specs, so we can see how they perform on each of those computers, and then all playing together.
Yeah. Another thing I think is also quite good to mention is we had a few questions before about what kind of NASA-based hardware do we use at Hunt to develop the games on, and I can tell you right now it's a hugely mixed variety of hardware that we actually develop on. The machine I use is
Can you have your pen for a second?
oh, my pen, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
The machine I use is I think it's a 1060, and I use a Xeon E3 because we have to generate stuff for level design. We have to use a lot of memory, and the CPU is quite good. I'm not sure what yours is.
I don't remember specifically. Something with 8 cores.
Yeah.
The CPU. Maybe Xeon. I'm not sure.
Probably a lot of RAM.
Like long time ago. I've got plenty of RAM. I've got 24.
Yeah.
That's a
But
lot
this-
of RAM.
I requested. You see,
Smug.
and he's not even programming.
He upgraded his RAM. Good job.
I upgraded my RAM
Wait,
specifically
hang on.
for
I just said that I don't have a great PC, and then I just described that I have a Xeon 32 gig, so I'm actually proving myself wrong. But in the playtest rooms and the other development machines, so next to my PC, I also have a 660 Ti with an
Same.
i5.
Same. I actually have 660 Ti, so my CPU is better, and I have more memory because I need to compile the game, and I need
Is
more
audio
things.
going in? No.
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 Oh, I'm just checking.
You're being trolled.
I'm being trolled.
But my graphics card is not that great, for example.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I'm
we
playing
do-
on low spec.
We do have like a really big variety in our test test areas that we do when we check for performance. And it ranges, like I think one of the machines is like an i7 2600. We have i5s in there. We have AMDs in there. We have different Ryzen types. We've got 660s all the way up to 1080s. I don't think we have anything more powerful than 1080s in there right now. We don't have 2060s or 2070s or anything like this yet.
Just give it 7080 Ti.
Yeah, and I think the most powerful CPU we have in there is an 8700K, and that goes all the way down to, you know, some sort of Dorito type thing. So
Dorito type.
So we have a huge array of hardware, and not all of the dev machines are super NASA mega machines.
Yeah.
So just the ones that need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually just realized that I brought the other piece of paper over there. So.
Do you have to run over there?
No, you can just say. Do you remember what we're going to talk about next?
Graphs.
Graphs.
Survey results.
Oh, you want to do it already now?
Sure, we can do that.
That was it. Do you want to talk about later what we plan to do for 5.0, or you're kind of done with that?
Well, yeah and no. 5.0 is going to be optimizations. We can't be too more specific at the moment just because there's so many. There's so many that are asset side related. There may be some stuff in there that will help for CPU. Perhaps there's some things that we've done in there, but...
I mean, it's a work in progress. There's like some work is just generally optimizing the game, or... Yeah, we looking into putting more of the like game systems, or not UI systems, maybe into like parallel processing, so use it on different threads in a like jobifying our update, just to release the main thread and putting everything more tightly in the multiple cores.
Yeah.
But it depends. What I mean, these things take time, and it's not necessarily that it will fit into like next performance patch.
Thank you.
So it really depends which one it will go, and I'm right now not exactly sure about the schedule.
I do think also what will make a difference is what we see happening on live when the patch comes out. So if we see it on live and we still see people with stutters, then that's going to be something we will drop everything for, and we will start looking at those again, because those are the killer when it comes to gameplay. Again, like if you have 60 frames and your frame rate is just going up and down and you're stalling, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you have a smooth, consistent experience first, and then we can bring the frame rate up to something better.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the plan.
Okay. Then I'm going to disappear for a little bit while they keep talking about the server results, because I have to control those.
So
everyone likes statistics, right? And the graphs.
Well, what we thought we would do actually was, what we've never done is we've done a lot of surveys for performance and other things, and we actually, I don't think, if I remember, we've ever shared any of the results with you guys. And I think that would be quite nice, just to look at the kind of things that people were getting and the kind of feedback that they had. And all of the test results you're going to be seeing are from the test server. So this is only the results from the test server. We will run another set of surveys for live. So when the patch is live, which it is right now, we will run an additional survey with this as well.
So it's a lot of images. I don't know. I think we started 12. Is still no. What is happening? No, get out of full screen.
Oh God!
First of all, you already showed all of them.
Yeah.
Just very fast.
You did a 90s data burst, if you remember those from when you had a video.
Everyone just implanted 25th frame.
Yeah. Okay, this
and
is a bit of a long one, but that will work, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to go into too much detail with these, but we just thought we would share the results for the community, since you guys have been giving us feedback on this. I mean, this is data that has come from you, so I think it would be cool if you have a look at it with us. We're not going to show you the results for every single question, just because it will take 1,000 years, and we'd rather just get down to the the Q&A and stuff like that. But yeah, so the first question we wanted to show you was like, this is basically from the survey results of what kind of resolution you guys are running at. And you can see that not only from the side does it look like a middle finger, but most people are obviously running in native 1080p. Very few people are running in 720 or 900p, but a lot of people in 1080 and a lot of people in 1440. I think the total users in this poll is about 1,100, I think. If you can zoom out a bit, I think it's at the bottom.
Yeah, it's 1,100.
It's 1,178.
Yeah. So I just think it's quite interesting to see. So, when people ask us what we're targeting in terms of performance, like one of the questions that were asked of us was like, what would we expect from a recommended spec PC for performances? We're aiming for 60 frames at 1080p.
Yeah.
For multiplayer, 60 frames is a pretty nice target, and most players are running in 1080. If you have higher resolutions, then you need better hardware and or to change your system specs to compensate for that.
Okay.
Yeah. So next question was the quality settings that most players have been using, especially on the test server, and no surprise that most people are using low. What was surprising to us is that it's either low or high. Now the data is a bit interesting here because of the custom settings. So if people are making a lot of small changes to their settings, that would basically be flagged as a custom, which it doesn't really fit in any of those categories. But it's still interesting to see that the majority of people, 40% of the players, are forcing everything down to low spec, and it's to be expected if you want to get your performance up.
I think we can at some point try to correlate with this actual telemetry we get from the live.
Yeah,
because there we were sending the specs selected.
That would be really interesting to see, and especially after the patch is live, it would be nice to see whether that changes and whether more people can, use sort of higher, higher specs and whatnot. So, yeah.
Okay, next one.
Next one. VSync. Again, not a huge surprise that most people have VSync off. I guess if you're not hitting 60 frames per second, it doesn't make much sense, and probably a lot of people's target is 60. Yeah. Not too much to say about this, but yeah, it's interesting to see the ratio here. This was a question we asked people whether you were happy with the performance generally in Hunt, and obviously, the feedback that we get is that it's a problem, and a lot of people have feedback that it's not where it needs to be. But this result was somewhat unexpected. We had quite a lot of people, 2/3 of people said that they were happy with it, and a third said that they were not. Now, the tricky thing with this particular part of the survey is we need to understand whether this is relative to the test server or whether this is relative to the game as a whole. So we will probably adjust this in the future just to make sure that that's a bit clear. But yeah, interesting nonetheless. Then we wanted to ask people a little bit about what areas of the game that they think that we should focus more on when it comes to performance in general. And I can't see the image anymore. Yannicka?
Oh, whoops, sorry.
Basically, people were mentioning that the two things that were obviously high on the list was that the frame rate is more stable, so it's not going up and down, and it's not sort of dipping and spiking and dropping when you're aiming, and the stuff that we talked about earlier. And the overall frame rate was too low. Coming behind that was that performance changes too much between patches. So if you scroll down a little bit, please. So performance was changing a lot between patches, was quite high on the list. A lot of these other ones, we have some data from you guys. Actually, people typed in stuff, which was really cool to see, and we're not going to show that here because there's just too many entries, but really interesting to see that stuff. So this is the data for that question. And the next one. So this is related specifically to what we wanted to check between sort of 4.0 and 4.2. This question basically is asking, did you guys have these stalls and stutters in earlier patches? And that could be anywhere from, from 2.5 onwards. We want to know about this. And what was interesting is a lot of people were having the stalls, I think. That was very evident. So again, it's one of the reasons we were focusing so much on that and so much on the smoother experience was because so many people were having issues with this. Next one, please. And this essentially is the kind of follow-up to this question. So what we see in here is after people tried 4.2 on the test server, after they played it, they said that they had a much lower degree of stalls, a much lower issues that were happening after 4.2, and the experience was generally smoother, which is positive, and it's a it's a good thing from our side. But again, we need to see how that behaves on the live servers. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, one sec. Yeah, I just want to make it so you can see it.
Yannicka's multitasking.
Yes. So hard. And installing sometimes.
Yeah.
And stuttering.
Yeah.
So we asked you also a little bit about how you would describe these stalls and stutters. So something that was kind of difficult for us in the past was that people describe, I have frame drops, or I'm lagging, or...
Yeah, like descriptions come in so much variety.
Yeah.
Like, And for some people, yeah, it's fine, and others say, oh, it's horrible, and they describe exactly the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, we tried to kind of break that out and come up with some descriptions that kind of made sense for, performance stalls. And, a lot of you described it as basically being kind of prolonged periods where your frame rate had dropped down, but had never kind of come to a stop, which is what the big blue bar here is here. That you're not fully freezing, but you do see like a moment where your frame rate's like kind of collapsing down to, a lower number and then maybe kind of recovering again. So it's interesting to see this. It's interesting to see, what kind of issues people have and to what degree they have it. Mm-hmm. And again, we need to follow up on that on the test servers when we go live. Yeah. Then we have some just general questions about satisfaction. So this is again related to the patch on the test server. So this is only on the test server. Hopefully it means that a lot of the issues have been resolved. We'd like to think so.
Yes, our job is done.
Yeah, we can go home. We're
Yes.
done. So that's we're not going to just expect that to be the case. We're not going to take the results and just say, yeah, everything's perfect. What we need is you guys to keep telling us your thoughts, fill in the surveys, feedback us, tell us if it got better for you, got worse for you. Tell us what kind of issues you have, and be vocal about it. Really tell us this. It's super important because we need with that information we can, plan
and prioritize.
Yeah, exactly. Next one. And when it comes to prioritizing, this was one of the final questions we had in the survey, which was actually one of the most useful for us. Was we can see what it is that you guys are more interested in when it comes to performance, as in, do you want us to focus on smoothing the experience or improving the frame rate overall or changing the graphical quality or giving more options and things like this. And I don't want to talk too much about this, but have a look at the graph and again, tell us more about it. If you guys feel like we should be prioritizing something more over the other, then communicate with us and let us know, and we'll react on that one.
That's the point of early access.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the last question. So what we did is we wanted to know from you guys: are we doing enough to make performance better? And the only people that can tell us this is you. Internally, we can look at performance analysis, we can look at the data we have, we can look at the performance we get in the game, but at the end of the day, we need you guys, in terms of the cross-section of hardware that you have, the time that you've put into it, the experience that you have, and you need to tell us, are we doing enough to make the experience good for you? So I'll leave you with this one, and when the patch is live, fill in the survey again and let us know. That would be really great. Yeah. I hope that wasn't too dull. I mean, graphs and stuff, it's kind of boring.
Lots of words.
Cool.
And numbers.
Alright.
You have to run back here. You need an assistant.
An assistant, yeah, that's nice. I'm sick. So, we had a couple of questions already down with media and really? No. Oh my god. No, it's not! Oh my god, you guys are the
What?
worst.
It's good, I was going to say something really rude just to test it.
I don't know, the cable was just like...
It must have been like when you got up. It must have like just had a tiny tremor that fixed it.
There was a
Is
question.
that? Like, do you say like caused a grind to tremor? Is that it?
Yeah. It must have been the chair. Clearly.
There was just a question in patch or in the chat whether the 4.2 a performance update. I don't think we're doing a good job here because that's the topic of all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trust me. The stream, it's part of it, It's like the traditional feeling where you come back to a stream that there's
It's
something
been a
that...
while actually since we've streamed.
No, I haven't streamed.
No, I mean,
well, I mean, you,
Yeah.
But we have... There's always something. Audio is like the bane of my existence. It will never work.
Should we just buy a new mic?
It's not the... I think it's the cable. Because the mic...
Should we buy a new cable?
Yeah, that would be nice. I'm definitely planning to.
Alright, if anyone wants to support us, send some cables in or something. That would be really, really cool.
So we got some questions. I'll just go through them, and I also saw one that I already wrote down that I saw during the stream. And then we'll catch some from the stream, which is a little bit harder right now. So we'll just answer these first. So if you have a good performance question, I know you guys are very eager for content, but a performance question that they can answer, hold on to the thought and then let us know in a second. So one of the first questions that I got was, can you get us any info about Vulkan API renderer? It's supposed to give better performance than DirectX, and it's on the roadmap.
So it depends. Vulkan and DirectX 12 affecting the CPU performance. So if your GPU bottlenecked, not really. For CPU performance, yes, probably, but we are not exhausted our options what we can do with DirectX 11. And it will come in the future, the improvements there, so we first want to see how far we can push that, and only then. Another thing is implementing new API is a very major undertaking. Not only from just getting it to work, but getting it to work stable, reliable, and on the variety of hardware, like going back to the topic that PC is such a big field.
Yeah, it's a lot of work to do that. Yeah.
It's a lot of work to do, and right now we already have at least a year of statistical experience how it runs on DirectX 11 for people.
I mean, we always never say never, and I can't really comment too much about what we're doing internally with stuff like this, but given that Crytek's history has been very technically driven and very kind of graphically driven and other stuff, it's probably a fairly safe thing to assume that it's somewhere in the pipeline, but we can't necessarily commit to it.
It was on the roadmap, we interested in implementing it. But
yeah, it was even in the roadmap, yeah. We don't have anything new to tell you about it at the moment, because right now our priority is just make sure the performance is where it needs to be, and at present, DX12 is not going to help with that, at present. So we've been focusing on the things that we can make a difference with, which in this case is CPU installs.
Sounds good. What is the end goal for performance? What would be the minimum specifications that people could run at 1080p 60 FPS?
I think we touched on that one earlier, right? I think we said, so what our goal is always going to be on PC for a performance shooter is we want to get as many people as we can to 60 frames per second at 1080p.
Yeah.
Now, that depends enormously on the hardware that you have and the settings that you use. But with the recommended spec hardware that we have assigned to the game, 60 frames at 1080 we think is something that...
And would that be on like high or...?
It should be on ideally medium. I mean, medium and recommended should go hand in hand. What we do is we tend to give you enough options, hopefully, to make those adjustments yourself. But that will take a little bit of time probably to get to that exact sort of frame rate. I don't think we're too far off that at the moment, but people will probably be a bit more willing to accept slightly lower frame rate as long as it's consistent.
And consistent.
But our goal is always going to be 60 frames, 1080p, recommended spec.
We're not decreasing any performance. It's more for the recommended spec, which is probably not your computer, to make it that everyone, even with like Dorito computers can play the game.
Yeah, if you have a really high-end machine, it's not like we want to reduce your frame rate to 60 frames at 1080p.
Okay, guys,
play like
you got a 4K
else.
Screen? Too bad.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
So
we're all going to have the problems together.
Yeah. There was another question that literally just popped in mind when we were talking about this. Oh yeah, I know that we were planning to have more graphical settings.
Yeah.
How is that going?
At the moment, it's not. We're not going to be adding new graphical settings yet. The specs, what we want to do, it actually goes back to one of the questions we were going to talk about a little bit later, but we can cover it now.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I personally would like to improve in 5.0. Since I'm saying it on a stream now, it means that we're obviously committing to it. So,
thanks for creating the job.
No problem, it's fine. I will take full responsibility for it. We wanted to make sure that the level of vegetation detail would be similar on low spec, medium spec, and high spec. So right now, low spec, you have a lot of detail, vegetation, and grass that's missing.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't really be in 2019. We don't feel we turned off some stuff because we wanted to just make sure that people with lower end hardware had a better chance at getting good frame rate. Now that we've done some optimization, we kind of feel like it should be possible for everyone to have that, and everyone should have that level of quality.
You want nice looking plans.
Yeah, I mean it's mostly going to be a GPU side thing. So we kind of feel that it's good that if you're low spec, you should have a much more comparable graphical quality to the other specs as well. There was actually, do we have a question here about graphical downgrade?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll get to that as well.
Shall I cover that quickly now, since we're talking about that?
Okay, so let me see.
I think that was your...
Okay. I really hope it's just hello? Yeah, okay, we're back.
We're back?
Okay, not stop. Quiet. Okay, just another long question. Okay. I'll just quickly repeat. Question for tomorrow's stream: can you explain the differences in the state of graphics of the launch build and what we have now? What changes were made? What changes made the biggest visible difference in quality, and what changes made the biggest difference in frame rate without a visible change? I know that many people have complained about graphic downgrades, and the developers might like to answer them directly in the changes.
This is not a question. This is an essay.
It's pretty long. I'm just reading up what they were.
Okay, I get that. I think I get the. I can condense it down. So, what happened to the graphics over time? What have we done graphics-wise to the game since launch? And what makes the biggest graphical performance?
Yeah, something like that.
So, the biggest thing that we did was, I believe it was in 2.5, we introduced the graphical options to players. So initially, when HUN launched, you had one setting, and that was it, which is not good. 2.5, we actually added the ability to set high, medium, and low on different things, and individual spec settings for each object group or vegetation, things like this. Now, I think what this is probably mostly referring to, and I hope that if the person is listening who wrote this, they can correct us if we're wrong. There was an actual issue, I think it was perhaps 2.5 to 3.0, the patch.
Yeah, the one where people were like, oh my god.
Yeah, there was a kind of a criticism that was that we removed a lot of stuff for performance, and so far I can tell you now that we have never deliberately reduced the amount of stuff we render for performance, except for when we changed high, medium, and low, when we introduced those, because you have to separate the specs out. There was a part of a patch that actually removed a lot of the vegetation, and that was kind of interpreted as us optimizing, and it wasn't. It was a bug that had got in, and we fixed it and brought the vegetation back. And for 5.0, we would actually like to take that another notch upwards and actually give low spec people more grass and more detail and stuff in there as well.
And even then, like technically, the throw distance doesn't change much between the specs. So you shouldn't have a competitive difference. As in, like, you see something through the scope, you should see it on all the specs. Otherwise,
yeah, exactly.
Apart from the bugs.
Yeah, because I know that a lot
pieces of geometry disappearing or something.
Oh yeah, exactly, yeah.
Because I know a lot of people are always like, I want the lighting back from like the launch build, but like.
Okay, but that change doesn't like artistic change, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in many cases, yeah. I mean, like we said, like our goal is never to make things look worse for performance. I mean, there's lots of things that we can do to maintain performance without degrading visual quality. And if visual quality has ever degraded, it's not something that's our goal. Our goal is to give the best of both worlds.
I mean, imagine it was.
Yeah.
We're making the game ugly because we do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's see. Okay, the current temporal anti-aliasing used. Some sentences are not written very correctly, but used.
The current temporal anti-aliasing use causes significant.
Oh,
ghosting.
yeah, okay, that.
So what this is asking is that some of our anti-aliasing can cause ghosting around, I think, specifically weapons. So scopes.
Right. Yeah.
All that stuff. So when you're moving, you get this kind of ghosting effect.
First person geometry.
Should I just read the whole question? It was more that I was like, I didn't see the...
So eventually the question was that there is a ghosting artifact, rendering artifact, and will you fix this? And So we know about this artifact. It's not necessarily caused by TAA implementation. It's probably the mix of TAA, maybe or we suspect it might be the global illumination actually affecting it a lot. We have to see how to improve that.
Okay.
But it's not necessarily causing a performance issue, so where's performance questions, right?
It is something that I know a few people have mentioned before. It's not the easiest issue to fix, unfortunately. It's actually a conflict between two kind of rendering things that we're trying to do at the same time, and it's basically if we spend time fixing that, we spend less time optimizing or less time fixing more critical stuff. So it's not that we don't want to fix it, it's not that we don't care about the issue, it's more just we have to assign people in the right priority to assign them to the right things.
Is the new performance update going to fix how sometimes metal sheets or walls don't render and give people a one-way wall?
So
it's a bug. It's not a performance, not necessarily a performance consideration, or not something we specifically were addressing. We generally try to bug fix and improve our implementation of rendering and 3D engine. Depends. I'm not sure we had a particular fixes for that.
No. I mean, so the thing with that bug is it keeps coming back and going away and coming back and going away, and we've investigated it quite a lot, and it's quite a very low level problem. It's quite a difficult one to solve, and if with all of these kinds of issues, like if they were easy to fix, we would just fix them.
Yeah, exactly.
With this specific one, it is important to get it fixed. It has to be fixed because it's giving advantage or disadvantage to other players, and that's something that we can't accept. It's not good. But it takes quite a lot of effort to look into that one. It's quite low level. It's quite difficult. It's possibly kind of down in the driver level of the rendering and other stuff like that. But it's something we will eventually fix. Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, just fix it. Yeah, definitely.
Just fix it.
I mean,
easy. Just fix.
I can tell you now.
Done.
It's important. It's important to us because it's important to the balance of the game. We can't have walls missing and have players looking through. It's just not good.
Okay. The performance difference between system with single channel memory and those with dual channel is massive. There's 30 FPS or no, okay. More in low 1% and 10 FPS more on average when going from single to dual channel memory config. The difference is huge. Most of the games get no benefit from more memory channels. There are very few exceptions like Battlefield 5. Could you please explain why and the reason why Hunt put such a huge demand on the RAM bandwidth?
That's a big question.
It's a lot of long, big questions.
Another essay.
Another essay.
So in general, the game is generally using lots of memory. Actually, more than we expecting, or more than we set. More than we set for us as the memory budget. So our memory budget was less than 8 gigabytes, closer to something like 5, 6 on PC. And then of course it may increase when you set your too high, like super awesome textures, need more memory. Yeah, we're working on that. So next updates, we already internally worked and had a significant improvements on how much memory we consume. And yeah, apart from that, we were not investigating much into specific differences between these hardware configurations.
Yeah.
First of all,
we probably have to spend a bit of time as well seeing the spectrum of people that actually are affected by this issue is something we have to put some time into investigating.
That would be nice to get information somehow. At the same time, we cannot tell people, go and set your computer in this mode or go buy better RAM. That's not how it works.
Always just download more RAM,
I mean, yeah. There are some websites which propose that.
Yeah.
So we would rather...
Disclaimer, don't actually do that.
Yeah, no, don't. But we would rather spend our effort on changing what we can change.
Yeah.
Hardware, we can't really change. We can adapt to that.
We need to make sure that the game runs well, no matter whether you have, dual channel RAM or not. It's just strange to kind of exactly what Pablo said is we can't expect people to adjust their hardware to our titles. What we need to make sure is the software works for everyone.
Yep. Let's see. Okay, this is a nice short question. Can you please explain the difference between borderless and full screen windows in technical terms?
One has a border.
Well, that's the thing. I said that too as entering there. No, I see them both without border.
So basically, one of them allows, and I have to be probably technically checked against this, but I think one of them allows you a better. The OS can actually put stuff on top of the other one and give you pop-ups and notifications and overlays, and the other one is The priority is
The
the
screen.
game. The game
Yeah.
has all the priority. I don't know if that helps.
Because I'm not particularly like a rendering engineer, or rather like Windows API that well to have a specific differences, and I'm not really sure how our implementation is done. So I wouldn't really be able to tell in technical terms. But yeah, in general, what
No
Jay said
problem.
is correct. Like in borderless window, it's a window. So Windows compositors still have to do all the work, like render windows behind, render windows in front, and then composite them together in a single picture. When you go in full screen mode, Windows can say, "Oh, you definitely will never be seen on screen. I'm not even bothered to draw you."
I guess it's like the equivalent between having an office with a door open or door closed. And if the door's open, people can bug you and sound can get in and annoy you, but whether the door is closed, you're exclusive and you're on your own and you can just work without being interrupted.
Work.
Or is that just a load of shit?
I think.
I see what kind of office you describe.
Yeah. You can see where I wanna work.
Okay. Will you guys be implementing NVIDIA DLSS or ray tracing? The game really looks really good. RTX cards could really benefit from DLSS performance.
We will focus on making sure that Hunt is as good a game as it can be for everyone first, before we start looking into additional features and supporting things that maybe not
supporting the
everyone has
rich.
access
We
to.
rather take from rich and give to the poor.
Yeah, I mean the ray tracing stuff is really awesome. It's really cool stuff.
Yeah,
but at the moment, our priority has been we need to get performance going.
For most
we need to make
people,
sure that it's good for everyone. So right now, I can't say yes or no. I'm just going to say that we're focusing on performance primarily. And the light's turning off again.
Yeah. I'm just
Slowly
scared.
dimming.
It's like, maybe I should just throw something at it.
I
Oh,
think
no, there you go.
Oh, there we go.
You moved it up.
Let's see. So, while I was trying... Okay, this is the longest. While I was trying to reduce the stutters, the thing I noticed that reduced the stutters the most was disabling the control flow guard in the exploit protection of the security section of Windows settings. Later I noticed that this particular issue has been affecting most computers since a major Windows update almost a year ago. And it was much worse than this all that time ago. My question is this. Here's the question. Are you aware of this particular issue? And if you are, what can I do to achieve the same effect, reducing stutter, while keeping control flow guard on? Since it's off, it reduces my computer's security.
I guess we need to ask, or need to answer for everyone, what is control flow guard?
I don't.
Do we have to?
I don't know.
So,
I think
like in short, it's a Microsoft Windows feature to protect
from water.
programs from being tampered with malware, with viruses, with this kind of like malicious software. So first, no, we were not aware that it might be a case, or rather, because it's a Windows feature, it's not necessarily a game feature. We were not actively looking into that. From what I know, the control flow guard uses again quite a big chunk of memory. So my hope is that reducing memory consumption may affect the effectiveness of control flow guard as well, or rather, you'll not be constantly page swapped from disk into memory to disk to memory. So that may improve the stutters. Apart from that, yeah, no, we didn't really look into this issue yet. I literally, today is the first time I heard about it. It might be improvement. But I wouldn't recommend, given that this is a security feature of the operating system, I wouldn't recommend to anyone just to go and disable it. It sounds dangerous.
I think it comes back to the question we answered earlier, which is if you have to kind of do weird workarounds to make Hunt work, that's a bad thing, and it shouldn't be the case, right? I mean, we should be making sure that you don't need to do that, and it just works out of the box, and that's really what the goal is for us. There was another question. That was the last question.
Well, yeah, I saw one in the chat, but if you have one that you remember...
I saw one just actually from Kilogrease, who asked about high model quality, and this was something we talked about, I think, last stream we were on, possibly, which was, we did say at some point we wanted to do a very high spec. We've not given up on the idea of doing a very high spec, but it was important for us to make sure that performance had got more focus before we started doing super high-end graphical PC
it's
melting
the same
stuff.
as the RTX stuff.
Yeah. I would love to have a high-end spec and just, really turn on everything and have people, the coolest, like, super awesome 4K, everything. it will hopefully come. I'm not going to guarantee it. It's something we want to do, but first performance for the whole, then we'll think about that.
I see someone say really high spec on 420 patch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I saw one question earlier in the chat. Have you thought of lowering the AI to boost performance?
I mean, in general, yes, the AI entities, and so amount of AI entities and general entities in the world affects the performance a lot. Not performance, network traffic, all that. This is the reason why we actually test with the 10 players in the game, because having 10 players actually makes the game to populate the world with the AI. Like when area doesn't have a player in there, there's no AI in there. Decreasing the AI counts would be a way to fight that, but at the same time, if we want player to be entertained by amount of AI characters around them, this was one of the considerations why we were cautious about increasing the amount of players, because yeah, technically the game will support that, but the performance will suffer from the increased. So either the performance suffers or the experience suffers, as in like player going compound and it's empty.
Yeah.
Basically, our mantra internally has always been that we will never want to adjust gameplay for the sake of performance.
Yeah.
We will not want to start with cutting features or reduce quality or make things from a gameplay perspective worse. The one exception that we've done recently for that, actually in this patch, was the fusee time. So this is something that is in the patch notes. It's something that we had to adjust, which we can discuss quickly. So we found that there were some performance issues with that because they have a very long time that they last.
Yeah,
they lasted 10 minutes, right? They were quite heavy on GPU, especially even for very high-end machines. They had some cost to them. So for this patch, we reduced those to a 5-minute timer. And this is one example we've done where we have made a gameplay adjustment for the sake of performance, but it's not something we want to do for long term. So long term, we want to optimize them and make them how they were, but just run faster.
Run fast, yeah.
We just didn't have the bandwidth to do that for this patch. So for this, there will be a little bit less time, but we will go in and optimize that in the longer term.
But you had to remind me. I was pretty sure that fusee's time already changed in the past, back and forth.
No, I think it was always at 10, if I remember right. We can check it, but maybe my memory is not as good.
Don't ask
So
me, my
they're
memory
called
is
Dennis.
terrible.
Yeah, summon Dennis. He will answer that, but yeah.
Dennis?
Okay, so if
not
you
there
guys have
today,
some
no.
more performance questions that they could answer, let me know in the chat.
The light's gone off again. This room is haunted.
This room is haunted. I think it's just me. I think I'm haunted.
Ah.
You did not pay attention? What was the question? Oh, it is actually Dennis. It was about the fuses. Are you planning to put CryEngine at its best in game? Pull the CryEngine at its best.
Coming back to the question was, are we going to be putting a very high spec or something?
Yeah,
I
okay,
think
we
covered
just
that
answered
if you
that.
want.
Yeah, I want to say hunted. Yeah, it's hunted.
Yeah. I mean, all I can say is just in summary of the questions that people had is please check it out on
10 minutes what we always had, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, okay, well that's good to know.
Okay, then I'm pretty sure we had some considerations internally there. Maybe it just never went live.
And hi to Archie, by the way.
Is he there?
Yeah,
he's getting special treatment.
He's getting special treatment. He's getting called out.
Okay.
Will the performance be up to par in 5.0? Will keep updated after?
The goal is to always make it better.
Yeah. So I know that you say I want content, but no worry, content is coming. I want to quickly say something about that. We are going to update the roadmap very soon, but we start with the short term. So what is coming very soon. What we're going to do is we're going to work on a roadmap that will be up to 1.0 and some post 1.0. So like the full release and what's coming after. But we will give you more information when we update it, hopefully this week. So either tonight, which I doubt, so probably tomorrow. So you guys can keep an eye on that, which has content. And obviously, as you might know, the boss, unfortunately, is a little bit delayed, but we have gotten way better performance now, which is more important for us.
The boss wasn't our fault. We didn't delay the boss.
I mean, the reason why we delayed it is because we want to have the performance so people can actually play the boss.
Yeah, the boss was the thing that broke the performance, right? No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
No, it didn't break the performance, but we want to make sure that everyone can actually play the game and enjoy the boss, because when we had the update after 3.0, the performance went down and people actually said, like, I can't play the game anymore, which we obviously don't want to. Mm-hmm. So I know some people are like, I have this high-end PC, I never have issues, but gotta think about everyone. It's not just about it.
I just think we should get more werewolf memes going.
Yeah, we keep getting a lot of werewolf fan art. Let me see.
Boss with hair works. Spider with hair works.
Can't ask questions. I can't answer questions about the boss. It's just community of just performance questions right now. So if you have performance questions still left, we will do our best to finish it. We already answered with we never changed anything specific for the game to not look like E3 video. Obviously,
of course it's better.
Of course it's better?
Yes.
You mean the video?
No, the game.
No, yeah, but they said they want the performance or how it looked back in the E3 video.
They think that the graphical quality had gone down between E3 and now.
But it hasn't.
It's possible that there was some more high quality effects purely because we had a single spec before. So we had only high spec before. And in 2.5 that was split into low, medium and high, so a lot of stuff got turned off for medium and low, so maybe that is one of the reasons for that. But yeah, if you guys have some specific kind of concerns about that or specific questions, then yeah, by all means send them our way.
Yeah, you can in general also message us on the Discord so we can get specific things. Now we know who sabotaged the light bulb. Yeah, no, it's like those lamps that turn off automatically after nobody's moving, and one of them is kind of far away. So, let me see. Netcode is something we can't really answer. We are still looking into the servers. We know that there are some people that have experienced high ping. We also, if you haven't already, I just realized what I said and what the person said. So we have just also released a blog this week, about our hit registration, and that's to do also with the server reaction stuff. I do think there might be a chance for us to make another blog that explains more, because I know people want more details also about travel, bullet speed, and such like that. And I'll make sure I'll get onto that so you guys can get another blog, hopefully sometime soon, with more information about that. Merchandise is also something we're still working on. So yeah.
Cool.
Regarding there's a question about the streaming performance of map, so I guess textures.
I guess it's blurriness.
I guess blurriness, yeah. My RAM just can't handle the bandwidth, it's too damn high. Yeah, we're working on improving the streaming system, so it's decides better how the streaming works. Apart from that, yeah, we're also looking into just improving how fast it can read from the disk. Right now, the only advice I can give is, if you have SSD, try to put a game on SSD. It improves the stream, disk access time.
Yeah.
So it may improve how fast the world catches up.
Yeah. And there was another one. I know that this is not really related to performance directly, but some people were asking about the reflection of the weapon.
In the water.
In the water.
I know. This one has been a bug that's been around for a long time. It's another case of, if it was easy to fix, we would have fixed it already.
Yeah.
I can tell you it irritates me as much as it irritates all of you, I promise you. And I know Pavlo is
it doesn't irritate me.
Not bothered by anything.
No, but I know that there was internally some re-implementations of the reflection system.
There was,
so it works better with the player hands, the player model, the weapons. They are not normal geometry. They're not going through the normal rendering functionality. They're first-person mode rendering. So therefore, they not necessarily work well with some other rendering features.
It's definitely on the list of things that, when we free up some resources after we fix the performance side of things a bit more, is solving some of those weird graphical issues that everyone gets irritated by. It's something that we would like to do. But I'm with you guys 100%. I find it as irritating as you do. But it is a question of the resources that we have to spend on that and the priorities and stuff like this. And it has been worked on, but it's not ready for use yet.
Yeah.
So.
There's also a question about the shadow of the gun on the ground, and that looks wacky.
I mean, I think that's almost a similar case.
It's actually very similar.
Yeah.
The reason because so the gun, hands, and everything they're special rendering mode, but the shadow caster is normal third-person model, and they probably don't match up together properly. Therefore, it looks lucky. But I remember we had a bug about that, and we need to. I mean, it's a bug. We need to fix it. And
Yeah.
I just don't remember specific details what exactly was broken there, but something about the setup first person versus shadow casting third person.
Let me see. If there are no questions anymore for now, obviously people can still answer questions on the Discord or on social media. Just send us a message on either of our platforms. And yeah, I think that was pretty much it for today. I think we have gotten a good explanation about what is going on with their performance currently, what they've been doing for 4.2, which is live right now. So definitely play it. We'll have another survey up probably tomorrow or otherwise beginning next week.
Yeah.
Let us know what you guys think. Please let us know how your performance is specifically for that patch, so we can tell, you know, how it is compared to previous patches. And then hopefully you guys will have a good time. So thank you guys so much for watching.
Yeah.
Thank you, our guests, for being here and answering the question. Speed recap. A speed recap. Oh, they want to do it. That's really hard for this.
Do it.
I mean, okay, we talked about performance. It's really hard because it's like so.
Audio kept breaking. The light kept turning off.
We are haunted, and
yeah.
that's about it. We answered questions. Performance has gotten better. We're still working on performance. Content comes after. Content is still coming. Don't worry. The boss is on the way. Also, another AI is on the way, and we asked some questions that were really long.
5.0 will contain more asset optimizations as well as content.
As well as content.
There will be a survey for the live servers that we would really appreciate you guys filling out and tell us about your performances happening. Apples,
bananas. That's Chris. That's Pavlo. I'm Janneke next. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Survey.
Survey, yeah.
CJ is broken.